What if I told you some stories you need to hear to believe?
It was the rivalry of the hammer and the nail, and Boston was the nail.
You would hear Yankee suck at a funeral, Yankee suck at a football game.
The second we said Yankee suck t-shirts, people just crowded around us and bought them as fast as we could sell them.
The all-new 30 for 30 podcast. Subscribe now on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
30 for 30 podcast is presented by Mini. We're finding the best sports stories for you right now. And to do that, we're behind the wheel of the new Mini Countryman, the biggest Mini yet.
Please proceed to the highlighted route.
To find great sports stories, you have to get out into the world and follow your instincts. That's where the new Mini Countryman's all-wheel drive comes in handy. With all four, we can chase down a story in the city, the country, and most places in between. No matter what story you're chasing, the new Mini Countryman will help you find it. It's available now, and so are 30 for 30 podcasts.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's Sirius XM Channel 80. That's 710 ESPN LA, and of course 98.7 FM New York City. The number to call up as always is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Got a jammed-packed show coming your way on this particular afternoon. Lots of stuff to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, boy, do I have some news to tell y'all. I've known it for quite some time, but I just think it's time to stop holding it in about Carmelo Anthony, about CP3, why CP3's in Houston, why Melo wants to go to Houston, all of this stuff that's going on, how the Lakers may end up. The stuff that's going on with the Los Angeles Lakers. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't wait to tell you. I can't wait to tell you. Stuff is getting very, very, very interesting, no question about it. But we're going to touch on the NBA for a different reason on this particular day, and for obvious reasons, of course, because unless you've been living under a rock in the sports world, you should know that Kevin Durant made news yesterday. You should know that he made news because in an interview with ESPN on Thursday, during his hometown celebration, Seat Pleasant in Maryland, celebrated Kevin Durant Day for all of his achievements on and off the court. He took an opportunity to expound on the potentiality of a White House visit and how it's not something that he would ever do. And he said, I quote, "I don't agree." He said, "I wouldn't go. Nah, I won't do that. I don't respect who's in office right now," talking about our president, Donald Trump. He also goes a step further. "I don't agree with what he agrees with, so my voice is going to be heard by not doing that. That's just me personally, but if I know my guys well enough, they'll all agree with me," end quote. Now, if you remember, Kevin Durant grew up 11 miles from downtown Washington, D.C. 11 miles. The story talks about how since he was a kid, he dreamed of hoisting the Larry O'Brien Championship trophy on the front steps of the White House. But because Trump is the one in office as opposed to former President Barack Obama, coupled with Trump's divisive rhetoric, according to Kevin Durant and anybody with sense, he would respectfully decline. He goes on and says, "I just want to sit back and analyze everything and gather my thoughts. I wanted to say something immediately, but I definitely want to be the voice of where I come from and people who have come from my neighborhood and deal with oppression. I'm representing a lot of people. As far as what's going on in our country, for one, as an athlete, you have to commend Colin Kaepernick, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, CP3, Dwayne Wade for starting that conversation last year. Russell Westbrook also said something in his speech. A lot of guys with platforms have drove the conversation in a good direction. And what's going on in Charlottesville, that was unfathomable." This is Kevin Durant talking. Now, for those of you who were living under a rock, period, you know what happened last Saturday. White supremacist rally protesting the removal of a Robert E. Lee statue, General Robert E. Lee statue, who took up arms and actually fought against the country, believe it or not. protest was organized in Charlottesville last week. A woman by the name of Heather Heyer, 32 years of age, was killed Saturday when a car allegedly driven by a guy by the name of James Alex Fields plowed into a crowd that was protesting the white nationalist, the neo-Nazis. Over 19 demonstrators were also injured. Durant believes the president played a role in the escalation of racial tensions in the United States and the public rise of white supremacy. I'm reading from the article. He goes on to say, he's definitely driving it, talking about the president. I feel ever since he's gotten into office or since he ran for the presidency, our country has been so divided, and it's not a coincidence. When President Obama was in office, things were looking up. We had so much hope in our communities where I come from because we had a black president, and that was a first. So to see that and to be where we are now, it just felt like we took a turn for the worse, man. It all comes from who is in the administration. It comes from the top. Leadership trickles down to the rest of us. So, if we have someone in office that doesn't care about all people, then we won't go anywhere as a country. In my opinion, until we get him out of here, we won't see any progress. Ladies and gentlemen, think about what Kevin Durant just said. Think about how profound those words are. I commend him for what he said. You know why? Because nothing he said was political. When he was talking about Barack Obama and where we were because he was the president of the United States, he's not talking about politics. He's not talking about liberal policies. He's not talking about the Constitution or amendment to the Constitution, the Affordable Care Act, or anything else. He's talking about a man and the very embodiment of who he was and what he represented being perceived as extreme progress for the nation. Because indeed, if you could have this man, a black man, as president of the United States of America, it speaks to how far we've come as a nation. And in the very next election, after his presidency expires, we're listening to a man who tried to draw a moral equivalence between one protesting group and another. So if you're an athlete, there are people out there who think you shouldn't say a word. You shouldn't speak your mind. You shouldn't say a damn thing. Shut up and play basketball. That's what they're saying about Kevin Durant. Just like what they said about LeBron James. They'll recognize your right to do it, but they'll also exercise their right to consider and label you unappreciative of the position that you're in and the fact that this great country allows you to be in that position. That's how some people think. But they don't consider themselves fortunate to live in this nation and to have the ability to enjoy the same rights that they're saying people should be gratified over. This stuff is getting uglier and uglier by the day, but also beautiful too. Because when I saw Malcolm Jenkins for the Philadelphia Eagles raise his fist, and you saw Kyle Long, the son of the great Howie Long of Fox's NFL Sunday, my buddy, who I haven't seen in a long time, but boy, I love him. And I'm not surprised at all that Chris and Kyle Long are the ones speaking up. White faces attached to this issue because they felt it was important to put a different face on it. And in the interest of full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, let me echo right now what I said on the airwaves this morning on First Take on ESPN, as it is every weekday morning with my man Max Kellerman and Molly Karam. As a black person, I'd be remiss in neglecting to point out, no matter what times you're talking about, but specifically as it pertains to civil rights era and beyond, there have been white activists out there too, willing to put their lives on the line and risk life and limb, careers and livelihoods to fight on behalf of justice and equality. And I appreciate the Long family and their very presence alone and their position in these matters, reminding us all of that. This is not about politics. It's about what we are as Americans, what we stand for, and what we will not allow to sully this great nation of ours. Not just in terms of literal things, but optics, appearance, perspective, and presentation as well. Kevin Durant articulated that brilliantly yesterday, and he should be commended for it. And for those who don't and refuse to recognize him for that, shame on you. 866-729-ESPN is always the number to call up. That's 866-729-3776. We'll continue to talk about this subject. Plus, I will not hesitate to get in to what I alluded to at the top of the show. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in New York and L.A., particularly as it pertains to the Lakers, the Clippers, and the New York Knicks. Not just Carmelo Anthony and CP3. As the show progresses, I promise you I will explain. I will not let you down. I'm also getting to this MVP, NBA MVP, and what the odds are as to who will win it next season and why. I'm going to tell you why that's incredibly pertinent to the City of Angels, Los Angeles. Stick around. You are listening live to Stephen A. Coming at you live from Los Angeles, California today on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
So much to get into. So much to get into on this particular day. Jay Cutler played a game yesterday. That doesn't mean a damn thing to me. I don't expect much from him in the Miami Dolphins. Aaron Donald could hold out for the year. I wouldn't blame him, even though I'm not asking them to pass up a guarantee in excess of $50 million. But the Rams have some nerves, but I went off about that yesterday. We all know that. And again, I promise you, at some point in time, I will definitely visit the conversation in regards to the Lakers, the Clippers, the New York Knicks, Melo and CP3. CP3 being gone from L.A. It's a lot of stuff to get into, and I most certainly will right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. But let's get to the phones for a minute. Let's go to Chris in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. What's going on?
Hey, Stephen A. Appreciate you taking my call. I tried to chime in yesterday and the day before that regarding what took place at ESPN with the whole auction and all that stuff. But I'm not going in depth with that too much because obviously you touched on that. But I just want to applaud you and Max because that's why I enjoy watching you guys on First Take because you guys don't shy away from topics like that. I know I have to do with ESPN, but you guys don't shy away from topics like that. And it's very educational for me being an African American male. A lot of stuff that you touch on and Max touch on, that it's just a lot, Stephen A. And I appreciate you and Max for that.
Well, I appreciate that, but I sincerely hope that you appreciate it because we're willing to tackle the subjects. Because a lot of times, people appreciate it when they agree with us. My point is, no, I think Will Kane should be appreciated just as much because he gives a different opinion. You see what I'm saying? It ain't always about agreeing with it; it's our willingness to tackle it. But go ahead.
Absolutely, yes. Will as well. I forgot to mention Will, but Will as well. And you guys you got differences, but at the end of the day, you guys always come from different points of views, and I appreciate that. But I want to touch on also what happened with Kevin Durant and what he spoke about yesterday or this morning. I'm not sure when he brought it about, but I didn't know, Steve. I had a question. I didn't know that the president has to invite teams. I thought that was something that was automatic, but that's something new to me. But it's just something that I knew. Honestly, from deep down, that it was coming, that players would go this route because of what's going on in the world today in society. So it doesn't surprise me that KD did that. I mean, I would assume that Draymond and all those other guys will probably be on board with it. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm just guessing speculation. But what is your take on that as far as everybody moving forward?
I don't think they'll be for it. I think Kevin Durant is absolutely right. I think you're going to see an abundance of guys follow his lead. And if Kevin Durant isn't going, it would not surprise me at all if all the players refuse to show up. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. You know what? What you gonna do? You gonna make him? You Joe Lake up. You Joe Lake, who I profoundly respect. He's the man. He's CEO of the Golden State Warriors. What you gonna do? You gonna try to make Kevin Durant come? You going to try to make your new $207 million player, Steph Curry, you going to try to make him do it? What you going to do?
No.
You better fall back. Better fall back. So I
Sure.
can't see it. Chris, I appreciate the call, buddy. Thank you so much, man. Let's go to Michael. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Michael? How are you? Good afternoon. Good morning. Michael, are you there? Michael, we lost Michael. Let's go to Sergio in Denver. You're live with Stephen A. What's going on, Sergio? How are you?
Good. How's it going, Stephen?
I'm doing all right. I'm something wrong with my eyes. I'm having difficulty seeing y'all names on the board. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. Go ahead.
All right, Stephen. I'm calling about yesterday you were talking about how Roger has a lot of power, right? He's got too much power. And this morning, Greeny was saying that, he makes this point a lot, that basically a lot of the players in the NFL, they have a short-term career, and they're more worried really about their immediate benefit instead of the long-term benefit. And that's the reason why basically they're just not as united, and they're not able to come together to make a better long-term decision.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because it doesn't just apply to issues. It applies to collective bargaining negotiations, for example. Like, you might have some players that's ready to hold out for the whole year. You might have another player that's saying, man, we got to get this done now. Hell with this. I need this money. I need to feed my family. I don't have your money. Let's get it done. So if you have a situation where if you're in the NBA and you got 450-plus players, and if you're the National Football League and you got 1,600-plus players, but you only got 10 to 20 players that are taken care of to the point where financially they can survive being out of the game for a year and all of that other stuff, you got a problem on your hands because the rest of them can't. And as a result, since they make up the body of players in terms of a union or beyond, you can't do but so much. I mean, you're not going to have everybody on the same page. It doesn't work that way, which is, by the way, why I don't believe what DeMaurice Smith, the executive director for the Players Association, brought up when he tried to proclaim he believes there's going to be a work stoppage in 2021. Oh, please. If it's going to be a work stoppage, it's going to be because of the owners. It ain't going to be because of the players, because the vast majority of players are going to need their money. Let's just call it what it is.
Exactly. And what do you think could aid that? What do you think could aid this to, for them to, whatever could happen to aid this, to help it?
Aid what? What's your definition of aid? To aid, what's your conclusion? In other words, what are you trying to get at?
The unity between them, to them to come together better. Is it just?
Well, I'm saying they could come together better, bro. But if I'm making $1 million and you only making 50,000, you and I can think alike. The problem is our money ain't alike. Remember, you know that song by Jay-Z, Already Home?
I don't.
He's got a line, a verse in there where he says, and really the fact is we not in the same bracket, not in the same league, don't shoot at the same basket, don't pay the same taxes. You understand what I'm saying? It's a different ball game.
Definitely.
So, it's like you can think the same, but in the end, you ain't. Because some people got it like that and some people don't.
Yeah. That's
where the lack of an accord comes into play. If you could be like-minded, but you don't have the same cushion. If I fall on the steps, but it's 3 damn cushions or a net that's gonna cushion my fall, that's entirely different than falling on a board full of needles.
Yeah, definitely. I get. It's like the show Ballers. You watch that?
No, sometimes, but I watch it for different. I watch it for different reasons than the issues, and I'll just leave it at that. Sergio, I got to run, man. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. More of your calls in a minute. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it. In just a few minutes, I'll transition to Melo, CP3, New York, L.A., Houston, and I'll get into the Los Angeles Lakers as well because there's something percolating with the Lakers that I need all of you to know, that I need you to understand. I'll get to that in just a few minutes right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Until then, let me get back to it. Let's go to Jeremy in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Jeremy? How are you?
What's going on, Stephen A?
I'm good.
You know, I got a couple of things I want to say. First, in regards to Kevin Durant saying that he doesn't want to go to the White House, I'm full support of that. You know, I don't agree with the administration. I was in the Army, and I can't stand to see someone like that as my commander-in-chief in this day and age. The only way, personally, I would say I would go is if underneath I had on an impeach Trump shirt in the middle of the whole press conference there. They would just, you know, take off whatever cover they had and just reveal that just to make a big stink. The second thing, really, I wanted to dig in on was that you had a couple of callers over the last few weeks that are just categorically and historically wrong about some things. You had one guy come on and say that Robert E. Lee wasn't a slave owner. Robert E. Lee had slaves upon his exit from West Point in 1829, and by his own son's admittance had freed them by
but yeah, come on, man. Most of my listeners ain't trying to hear that. I mean, I know that we don't need a history lesson. I get it. I appreciate it. I totally understand what you're coming from. But don't waste the short, valuable minutes that you have trying to give folks a history lesson on Robert E. Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Damn it, it ain't a priority. Go ahead.
No, true. And this just the other thing is like there was this guy that came on a couple weeks calling everybody snowflakes or wanted to take down statues and everything. I'm like, don't you know that that's as a prior service member, why are we putting up statues to honor people that were fighting against our nation? That I don't get. And even
because
Americans,
listen, I appreciate the call, but here's the bottom line. Eventually, they did things that were positive. Obviously, they did things that weren't not great. Look at the other story that's percolating in Boston. You've got the CEO for the Boston Red Sox that wants Yorkie Way renamed, which is the street that goes into Fenway Park where they play, because Mr. Tom Yorkie, who used to own the team from 1933 to 1976, was against desegregation in terms of his team. Jackie Robinson integrated the sport of Major League Baseball in 1947. The Red Sox, the Boston Red Sox, were the very last team in Major League Baseball to integrate. They brought on some dude, Pump C. Green. That was their first player. He was in 1959. He came on board. It was 2 years after Jackie Robinson retired. That's when Yorkie and those boys were willing to entertain desegregating his Major League Baseball roster. And then after that, it was the busing situation, where laws were enacted in 1965 to desegregate the public schools in Boston. And still in the 70s, well into the 80s, the city of Boston was still fighting that in large part. And then you fast forward to 2017, and Adam Jones is talking about being at Fenway Park and how racial epithets were thrown in his direction. And CeCe Sabathia for the New York Yankees was talking about how it was typical in Boston. And how it wasn't a surprise to any player, and how there's only 61 black players, 7.1% they amount to in Major League Baseball. In 2017, we were having this conversation just months ago. And in fairness to the city of Boston, they're saying, excuse me, why everybody highlighting us? Like we the worst city in America. There's plenty of cities worse than us. That's what they're saying. So now there's a debate ongoing about whether or not Yorkie Way needs to be renamed. CEO wants to rename it Big Papi, David Ortiz Way, because of the African Americans and Dominican Republicans that have been a part of that franchise for years. This subject's not going away because these issues won't go away. And if you really, really, really want to be honest about it, ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest reasons that Barack Obama was voted into the presidency receiving over 69 million votes is because you had a plethora of white Americans who are determined and hell-bent on getting beyond these points. So if everybody feels that way, and if everybody in America just wants to go on with their lives and not be dragged down into the muck and mire of issues like this, how the hell did we as a nation allow an individual, not as politics, not as policies, how did we allow that particular individual to get in the office conducting himself as a human being and an adult the way he was supposed to. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, remember that presidential candidate, Gary Hart, that didn't capture the presidency because you saw him on a boat with a mistress or something like that? You know how many candidates had to back out because of the things that they said? Or salacious behavior as individuals they may have engaged in? Yet all of that was ignored this go round. And you're wondering why chickens have now come home to roost. Because a legitimate argument that could be made that when you talk about the morals that exist in this country and what we mandated and demanded from our leaders, we ignored all of that. All of it. For this particular individual. That's why you saw Kyle Long. That's why you heard Chris Long. That's why you've heard Kevin Durant. That's why you've heard LeBron James. That's why you're going to hear much more. You think it's bad now. Wait till the damn NBA season starts. This ain't football, ladies and gentlemen. The National Football League, you got contracts that could be cut, minimized. Guys could get flat out waived or cut, have their money restructured and all of this other stuff. Ain't guaranteed contracts in the NFL. The owners and the commissioner rule that league. The NBA is a players' league. What you going to do, LeBron James? He's worth $1 billion. What you going to do with Kevin Durant? He's damn near worth $500 million. What you going to do with a whole bunch of players? Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that Chris Paul told Steve Ballmer and the Clippers, no, I'm not taking your money? They were going to give Chris Paul a 5-year, $205 or $207 million. I'm a huge fan of Doc Rivers. I'm very, very fond of this man as a coach. I got to tell you something. It's impossible that he's not in trouble. It's impossible that he's not in trouble. If I'm a billionaire and I got a dude that won't take $200 million of my money to stay living in L.A., Los Angeles, California, City of Angels, Hollywood, Tinseltown, the warm weather, the palm trees, and everything else in between, and he's making $200 million, and he says no? I'm looking at my coach. What's the problem? What's going on? What am I missing? What the hell is going on here? One point is that Chris Paul obviously could afford to take that position. The other part is why he would feel the need to. That, my friends, is a different subject that does not involve President Trump at all. That involves Doc Rivers, Steve Ballmer, and the Los Angeles Clippers. And inevitably, it will all serve to involve the Los Angeles Lakers, the Houston Rockets, and the New York Knicks, too. I'll explain exactly what I mean up next. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm satisfied. Outstanding. Ow. Yeah. Girl, you knocked me out. See, that's some old music. Y'all don't understand stuff like that. You young whippersnappers out there. You just don't know music. When it's music, all these damn lyrics. I don't even understand what half these rappers saying in this day and age. That's just me. That's just me. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. I told y'all I was going to get into this. And let me just break this down. You know, you got people reporting on things and people aren't heavily in it, but I think today is appropriate to bring up this stuff because, and I'll get into it a bit heavier in hour number 2, but it's important to get into it because with Vegas putting the odds out about who's going to be league MVP in the NBA this year, I think it's going to be Kawhi Leonard. They got Russell Westbrook 7-2 odds. With the Los Angeles Lakers, shaving about $50 million plus off their cap, thereby putting them in position to get 2 marquee free agents. With Russell Westbrook refusing to sign his Supermax 5-year, $217 million extension that's on the table from Sam Presti and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Ladies and gentlemen, it's one of those situations where it is not beyond the realm of comprehension that by this time next year, Paul George and either Russell Westbrook or LeBron James are wearing Los Angeles Lakers uniforms. I mean, it's that serious. It's that serious. We all know that LeBron James is keeping his options open. He always does. That's a given. But Russell Westbrook, former star at UCLA, reigning league MVP, big-time clear superstar in the NBA. Ladies and gentlemen, I got some news for you. I wouldn't rule out anything right now. He hasn't signed it yet. Got till the beginning of the season to sign it. Who knows what he's going to do? We all know Paul George wants to be here in L.A. That's relevant. Here's what is also relevant. I can't believe Chris Paul is gone. And obviously, I've had a lot of personal things going on in my life and a lot of other things that I've been dealing with. And, you know, there's other folks' jobs to lock in. I used to be that beat writer. I used to be that NBA insider that was on the beat. I still have my sources and context, but I host 2 shows. I don't have to do that anymore. So I don't have to be the first to find out every little thing. Wojnarowski is sensational. Let him do it. Brian Windhorst and Ramona Shelburne and others are great. Let them do it. I did that for 17 years. I don't feel like doing that no more. But when it falls in my lap, I have to do it. And ladies and gentlemen, here's the reality. The Los Angeles Clippers wanted Chris Paul back desperately. Steve Ballmer wanted him back. There's questions as to whether or not Doc Rivers did. The relationship with CP3 was not great. If you recall around this time last year, Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant can get mad at me all he wants to. Yes, I got sources in his camp still. I have people close to CP3 still. I'm always have folks. And here's what I was told. Kevin Durant met with the Clippers as a courtesy. Had no intentions of ever coming to the Clippers. Knew that Chris Paul and Blake Griffin didn't have the greatest relationship. That him and DeAndre Jordan butted heads from time to time. And didn't want any part of it. So he didn't want to come to L.A. But Doc Rivers, with Ballmer, with Blake Griffin and them, met with Kevin Durant anyway. Chris Paul was out of the country. He didn't show up. Because he's close with Kevin Durant. I'm telling you what I know from Chris Paul's people. He's close with Kevin Durant. And made it very, very clear. He knew that Kevin Durant wasn't coming. You got a lot of people that talk about how Doc and the crew did not like that. And when it comes to CP3 and Doc were basically on the outs ever since that time. Because he felt CP3 should have been there for that meeting. Last year was touch and go, up and down. Everybody knows Austin Rivers is a good kid, decent player, ain't CP3. The Los Angeles Clippers had an opportunity to acquire Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony, I'm telling you this, would have waived his no-trade clause to come to the Clippers. For some reason, Doc Rivers didn't pull the trigger because of Austin Rivers, which is something I reported months ago. CP3 and Carmelo are like brothers. You bring Carmelo to town, you might have had a shot to get LeBron. You just never know. Didn't happen. That's strike two with CP3. And in the end, that's all the strikes you needed. Because CP3 was fully aware of the fact that the Clippers were willing to give him in excess of $200 million. And at age 32, approaching the last year of his deal, CP3 turned down over $200 million. And in the process, wasn't even talking to Doc Rivers. And even after he decided to go to Houston, still met recently with Ballmer for dinner. This I know through CP3's folks, but not Doc Rivers. So when you couple that and all that transpired with the fact that Jerry West is now in Los Angeles, one would surmise Doc Rivers is in a world of trouble. This year has to be successful in some capacity. You ain't got to beat Golden State, but you better have a damn good season. And Jerry West doesn't have to say anything. Jerry West is almost 80 years old, ladies and gentlemen. Jerry West ain't interested in talking. Jerry West ain't interested in titles. Jerry West is interested in making decisions, being the foremost authority on basketball decisions, and ultimately getting paid. That's it. And you know what else Jerry West is interested in, ladies and gentlemen? More so than anything else that you could think about? What Jerry West is interested in more than anything is making sure that he builds a foundation for the Los Angeles Clippers that even eclipses that of the Los Angeles Lakers. In other words, Jerry West, regardless of how you slice it, friendly, respectfully, or otherwise, is in direct competition with Irvin Magic Johnson for supremacy in Los Angeles. Do y'all hear what I'm saying to y'all? Do you get how this is breaking down? If you don't worry. I got more to tell you, especially as it pertains to Carmelo Anthony. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, hour number 2 with so much more coming up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
What if I told you you can't lock up the will to win?
We are all about to witness an event that's never happened before in television sports. A top boxing contender coming inside the walls of a prison to fight an inmate.
We call him the Great Scott. He was built like Hercules.
James Scott is one step closer to the light heavyweight champion of the world.
I don't know that everybody thought this out all the way through.
The all-new 30 for 30 podcast. Subscribe now on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
30 for 30 podcast is presented by Mini. We're finding the best sports stories for you right now. And to do that, we're behind the wheel of the new Mini Countryman, the biggest Mini yet.
Please proceed to the highlighted route.
To find great sports stories, you have to get out into the world and follow your instincts. That's where the new Mini Countryman's all-wheel drive comes in handy. With all four, we can chase down a story in the city, the country, and most places in between. No matter what story you're chasing, the new Mini Countryman will help you find it. It's available now, and so are 30 for 30 podcasts.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show here with you for the next hour or so over the airways of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Let me continue on this basketball topic before I transition back to Kevin Durant and what he had to say about our president, along with a couple of other things. Here's the deal. That's the situation with Doc Rivers and the Los Angeles Clippers. Chris Paul walked away from $200 million at age 32 in the last year of a contract because he didn't want to play for Doc Rivers. That's one of the reasons. Now, I'm a fan of Doc's. I think he's a big-time motivator. I think he's a champion as a coach. But those things can't go unmentioned. And I think Ballmer taking the presidency away from him, giving it to Lawrence Frank, who recognized he wasn't going to be a head coach anymore, in all probability, decided to go upstairs to the front office. Smart move on Lawrence Frank's part. The man works hard, studies. I don't know if he's a coach. I think he's an executive. I know he's knowledgeable about the game of basketball. Be interesting to see the job that he does. But Jerry West is the name you can't ignore. Ladies and gentlemen, understand something right now. Yes, I'm on a record saying that Jerry West doesn't deserve to be the silhouette anymore. By the way, Jerry West feels that way too. Jerry West is one of the great basketball players in NBA history, one of the great basketball minds in history. I don't just respect the man, I revere him as a basketball mind. He's that lethal. He's that special. And that's a big-time pickup by Steve Ballmer to get him on board. But it's going to be real interesting. Because let me tell you something. Jerry West played a role in getting Kevin Durant to Golden State. Jerry West was the man who got Shaquille O'Neal to Los Angeles. Could Jerry West pull off something to get somebody here in Los Angeles for the Clippers? Which brings us to the Los Angeles Lakers. See, ladies and gentlemen, Magic Johnson is one key name in all of this because $50 million is going to be shaved off their cap. And there's 3 marquee free agents that are expected to be available next summer. At least 2 in Paul George and LeBron James, possibly a 3rd in Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook started UCLA. George is from Palmdale out here. If both of them could be free agents together and both of them love playing with one another in Oklahoma City this year, who's to say they're not going to depart and come to Los Angeles? And if one of them doesn't come, who's to say that it's not so the other can join LeBron James? But can Magic out-recruit Jerry West? Or vice versa? Can Jerry West out-recruit Magic? Remains to be seen. Magic has the Laker brand waiting for, buffering his stature. Not just his greatness, but also the Laker brand, whereas Jerry West doesn't have that, but Jerry West is Jerry West. New arena, get the hell out of the Staples Center, get your own palace to play in, establish your own identity, a different one than Donald Sterling, contaminated and sullied for years. Who knows what you could do if you're Steve Ballmer with Jerry West? It remains to be seen. But the key name in all of this is Lonzo Ball. Because if Lonzo Ball ends up being that dude who can be a legit point guard, who legitimately makes others better, and he shows himself that he's ready for this level, ladies and gentlemen, we could be in the throes of something very, very special in Los Angeles. Now, if you're the New York Knicks, it's a little bit different because Melo wants out and Melo wants to leave. And the question really in your mind should be, what are you going to get for him? You're not moving Porzingis for Kyrie Irving. You'd move Melo in a heartbeat for Kyrie Irving. Cleveland's got to be willing to take it. If you're the New York Knicks, what can you do to convince them? Not just them, another team. You got to convince Melo because Melo doesn't want to waive his no-trade clause for Cleveland because he wants to go to Houston with CP3. Well, why would he want to do that? Could it be that both he and CP3 are both represented by CAA? Could it be that they believe that playing together will ensure in all likelihood that in concert with James Harden, because that is his team. It ain't CP3's team, wouldn't be Melo's team. James Harden is the man on the Houston Rockets. Could it be that playing together or playing as a threesome, they have the confidence to believe that they can at least get to the Western Conference Finals? And if that happens, it will ensure that both of them gets their money from the Rockets in a tax-free state in terms of state income taxes that is Texas and Houston specifically? Is that possible? These are all the things that's going on. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. This is getting very, very interesting. And everybody keeps talking about LeBron James. To me, if LeBron James is 1, Russell Westbrook is 1A. Russell Westbrook potentially available on the open market? Are you kidding me? Do you know how special that would be? And this is Russell Westbrook we're talking about here. So if he don't mind playing in Oklahoma City, that means he wouldn't mind playing for the Lakers or the Clippers. By the way, from what I'm told, if Ballmer had gotten Chris Paul to take the $200 million, Blake Griffin was gone. Because Chris Paul was obviously preferred. But since Chris Paul elected to leave and told them so, keeping Blake Griffin on board obviously wasn't a problem. The interesting part about it is this. For all those who say, oh, people complain about Doc Rivers, there's problems about Doc Rivers. That might be true. Doc Rivers is somebody you can complain about from time to time now because he's fiery and he's demanding. But Blake Griffin didn't seem upset that Chris Paul was gone. Neither did DeAndre. Meanwhile, you got cats, along with CP3 and even J.J. Redick to a lesser degree, that had their complaints about their coach. Interesting times in L.A. Interesting times. Nothing compared to how interesting it will be in October, though, when the Dodgers are in the playoffs, the Rams are, and the Chargers are playing NFL football, USC is playing college football, and Lonzo Ball and his career with the Los Angeles Lakers gets started. It's going to be wild in Los Angeles. Not so much in New York. 866-729-ESPN. Back to the phones we go. LJ in Houston, talk to me.
Stephen A., how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you for calling. Talk to me.
That scenario that you threw out, the fact that Russell Westbrook could end up with the Lakers with Paul George and possibly LeBron, I don't really see LeBron.
No. That's not what I said. I said the Lakers will have money to get 2 of the 3. So I'm not talking about the 3-headed monster. I'm saying if you're the Lakers, you're in position to potentially have Paul George with LeBron or Paul George with Russell. 2 of the 3. That's what I said.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I see that one. I see Paul George and Russell more than I see LeBron playing with Russell. But who's to say that Russell won't go to the Clippers? How we know Jerry West won't recruit Russell Westbrook to the Clippers?
What did I just say? I just said that Russell Westbrook, the type of dude, if you don't mind playing in Oklahoma City, you damn sure ain't going to mind playing in L.A., whether it's with the Clippers or the Lakers.
Yeah,
that's what I said.
Yeah, but like you said, they need to get out that building, get their own building, get their own identity, get away from the Lakers, and then have a better shot of getting their brand better. But I had one scenario I want to throw at you before I go.
Sure.
If LeBron goes to the West and Carmelo ends up with the Rockets, do you think that they will force the commissioner's hand to change the playoff format to top 16 since the West will be top-heavy instead of the East?
I wouldn't rule it out.
Okay.
I mean, they poo-poo that, but the commissioner has admitted that it's crossed his mind from time to time. And if something like that happened where LeBron and Melo all ended up out West, I wouldn't blame him.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think LeBron's setting it up for that to happen. That was my question, though.
Thanks
have a nice day.
I appreciate the call. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. Back with more of your phone calls in a minute. We're talking NBA. We're talking Durant, President Trump. By the way, Steve Bannon fired as an advisor to the president a few hours ago. Lots of stuff to get into. Because who knows? LeBron and Kevin Durant might have something to say about that, too, the way things are going. You're listening live to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Back to the phones we go right here live on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, looking to close out the week very, very strongly. Remember, preseason action is stepping up. The NFL season is drawing near, along with the college football season, by the way. I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm looking forward to Alabama, Ohio State, USC, Florida State, Alabama open the season up against one another. Can't wait for that matchup. In Atlanta, Georgia, I might go to that game. Definitely, I can't miss USC, Texas this year either. I'm looking forward to that, too. Lots of stuff to get into, but we will. Right here at Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's go to Mike in Queens. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Mike? What's going on?
What's up, Stephen A?
Talk to me, man.
Listen, I just don't see Russell Westbrook going to L.A. Obviously, he's from the area, but you really could see him playing off the ball with Lonzo there?
Well, listen, first of all, I think anything's possible because Russell Westbrook, you think about it. You're going to tell Russell Westbrook, look, man, we want you to score. We want him to handle the ball. We want you to shoot 25 times and try to average 30. You think Russell Westbrook's going to be insulted by that?
Yeah, but you said he would also be going with either LeBron or Paul George. Like, there's only so much to go around, right? He wouldn't be that main guy trying to score. Brandon Ingram's already there.
Yeah, but once you got your money, why do you care?
Because I think Russ wants more than money. I think he's trying to win championships.
Well, I don't think anybody wants just the money. They all trying to win. But part of trying to win is trying to do things a little bit differently than you've been doing. Last time I checked, Russell Westbrook doesn't have a championship on his resume, not to mention the fact that I don't think you can rule out anything. Listen, here's the reason we asked the question. There has been a 5-year Supermax $217 million contract extension on the table for Russell Westbrook for months, and he hasn't signed it. That's why we're asking. Have a nice day. Let's go to Nathan in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. What's going on, Nathan? How are you, man?
How's it going, Stephen A., my brother, man?
I'm doing all right.
Listen, I just want to get 2 points on sorry, you want to speak? My bad, bro. Just want to get 2 points on the Rams real quick.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about Aaron Donald. I love the guy. Dude's a beast. Like, hands down, one of the best defensive players in the league. And I just want to say, so if the Rams pay him all that money, can they pay players like Tremaine? You got your Alec Ogletrees. You got, like, our defense is stacked, but I don't want to break the bank just paying one player, you know?
Well, you don't want to break the bank playing just one player, but at the same time, you don't want your best player to just walk out the door on you. Not that he can because he's still under contract, which is why he would have to sit out the season if he didn't play unless the Rams traded him, because he doesn't have a right to just get up and go somewhere else because he's not a free agent. But the reality is clear. The Fletcher Cox, the Von Millers, the J.J. Watts of the world, the list goes on and on. You see these boys getting paid, and you're Aaron Donald, and you're recognized one of the best in the game. Plus, you have youth on your side. Why can't you sit up there and demand that you get compensated and taken care of like the others have? The Rams should have to figure that out. What did you say? I mean, Les Snead was on the record last month, just a couple of weeks ago, talking about how, re-signing Aaron Donald is a priority. Quote, the goal is still the same. Make Aaron a Ram for a long, long time, so that didn't change at all. I definitely respect Aaron as a human being. I respect the process. Now, this is a guy that's under contract. This is a guy, it is Aaron Donald. He's under contract for $1.8 million this year and $6.9 million next year. They could franchise tag him in 2019 and 2020, which means he still wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And that means it'll be a long time before he can negotiate with any other team. But at the same time, he's talking about how physical the sport is, what sacrifices that he's making. And let's take into account who he's making those sacrifices for, man. These are the Rams.
No, I feel you, man. I feel you. Like, I'm a long-time Rams fan, and
pay this man.
I get it. And I want to treat this man right, bro. You feel me? Like,
yes.
And I'm 100% on that, man. Like, if we can get it done sooner, like, we're like.
All I'm trying to say to you is this. Let me ask you this question. Was the Rams' offense or defense the problem last year?
Offense, man. Come on.
Thank you. Offense. We're dead last in points, loud yardage, passing attack, second to last in a run attack. Come on now. Your defense was respectable. Think about what they had to work with. And I understand that you got Quinn and a few other cats, but who's the best on your defense?
Donald, hands down, man.
Take care of him. Man. Take care of this man. Take care of him. Aaron Donald better damn well get his money. Take care of him. Figure out everything else. Appreciate the call. Tired of all of this nonsense. I'm not sitting up there and telling you cripple your team because of him. But in the same breath, just because you have leverage doesn't mean you exercise it all the damn time when your team is stunk. And this dude goes out there and performs for you. 3 consecutive years as a Pro Bowler. Got youth and speed and quickness and athleticism on his side, and actually doesn't mind being a part of your organization for years to come, knowing you stink, and you're going to give him a hard time? Give him his damn money. Mike in Denver, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, big baby? What's going on?
How you doing, man?
I mean, talk to me, bro.
Hey, man, yeah, I just want to touch on a few things real quick. First of all, I pretty appreciated how you and Max handled the wheel this morning. You know, like you say, whether you right or wrong, y'all always get to a point on that. That was beautiful. And then, you know, you're giving out some good information on the NBA right now. But the other thing is that Boston situation you was talking about earlier. You know, I experienced that. I ain't never shared this with you, though. But in 1981, man, I played with the number one high school team in the nation, Dunbar High School in D.C. Okay. They had the number one high school player in the country.
We know all about Dunbar, bro. Reggie Williams and Georgetown and all of those boys.
Not the one in Baltimore. Not the one in Baltimore. The one in D.C., Stephen A.
Okay.
Go ahead. You can check it out. A guy named Anthony Red Jones, who ended up going to Georgetown with Patrick Ewing. And we was going to play Cambridge, Ridge, and Latin when Pat Ewing was up there. And we couldn't play. We was going to play him at the Boston Garden, and we couldn't play because of the race riots. And, man, that was a shame. Here it is. This was 1981, and they still had that mess going on. And, you know, that's a shame.
Well, that's what you alluded to. You alluded to the whole busing issue where legislators made it illegal to segregate the public schools. This is in the 1970s, and from 1974 to 1988, the city of Boston was still in an uproar, periodically having riots because you had an abundance of people there who did not want to desegregate schools. And to this very day, the city of Boston is considered one of the more segregated cities in the country.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, man, that was a real hurtful thing for us, man, because we wanted that game so bad. You know, we was featuring like two of the top players in the country that year, you know, with Pat Ewing playing for them and Ramil Robinson being a freshman at that time. So we really wanted that game.
Ramil Robinson, for those who don't know, ultimately ended up going to Michigan and helping them to a national championship, playing for Fish, if I remember correctly. Am I right?
Yeah, correctly. And like I said, you know, man, in 81, I'm saying, you know, Dunbar High School in D.C., you know, we was from preseason to the last game of the season. We ended up losing to the Master in the city title game. But, man, you had a pretty awesome show today, man. I'm going to get back with you Monday. Man, keep doing your thing,
Talk to you later.
Man.
Thanks a lot, bro.
Right.
Appreciate you, man. No doubt. 866-729-ESPN. More of your calls in a minute. We'll continue talking about this. We'll revisit the topic of conversation you just brought up in terms of Boston. And also, I'm going to get into a few other items as well. The NFL, the NFLPA going at it. And then the NFL Players Association talking about there's going to be a work stoppage by 2021 in all likelihood. I don't believe that for 1 second. I'll explain why when we return. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Man, let me veer off the reservation for just a second here, please, today, by bringing this up. If there are moments in time where when you do hear the word assault and you do hear the word charges, you should pause and not jump to conclusions. And ladies and gentlemen, I would make the argument that as it pertains to Raiders cornerback Sean Smith, that's exactly what we do. See, we hear that he beat up somebody and stomped on a dude's head. And certainly, listen, this is Walt Disney. This is ESPN. We ain't encouraging violence of any sort. And certainly stomping on somebody's head is definitely extreme. All of that's true. All of that's true. And looked in that regard, I understand. But when I heard the story about this cat, Sean Smith, cornerback for the Los Angeles Raiders, in his second year, I heard his attorney talking about how he maintains his innocence and he will not plead guilty. The plan, his attorney, Daniel Rosenberg, said is to fight the charge all the way through. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's not the reason I'm asking y'all to pause. Hear me out. Hear me out. This man, Oakland Raiders cornerback Sean Smith, arrested Thursday, facing felony assault charges. Do you know why he was arrested? For beating up his sister's boyfriend. Do you know what that makes me think, ladies and gentlemen? Why did he feel the need to beat up his sister's boyfriend? See, at some point in time, we can't have it both ways now. You know, listen, we live in a society where it has been proven that more than 85% of the cases of domestic violence are where women are victims. Okay. And we have no clue whatsoever what happened. But why is this man, who is an NFL player, who knows that the slightest thing could have him in the newspapers because he's a part of the police blotter, why would he jeopardize himself by beating a man up and stomping on his head, and that man happens to be his sister's boyfriend? Why? I want to know the answer to that question. And God forbid, because we don't know. And again, I don't want to advocate violence, especially damn near killing somebody or anything like that. We don't want to do that. But I got to admit to you, I would like to know why he beat up his sister's boyfriend. You're an NFL player. Anything you do can put you at the mercy of Roger Goodell. Why are you in the news for beating up your sister's boyfriend? Because in the interest of full disclosure, you can get it twisted all you want to about what you think this is, meaning Stephen A. Smith. But have I had to put my hands on a man before because of my sisters? Yes. Do I know many men who have? Yes. And I don't know a man that has ever felt the need to apologize for putting his hands on another man over his sister. I don't know what happened here. But just as an outsider contemplating the potential of what may have transpired, usually a dude doesn't feel the need to put his hands on another dude over his sister. Unless that dude did something to his sister. I'm just saying. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Back to the phones we go. Jay and Cali, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Jay?
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A? I totally agree with you, man. I just want to say before I say my point, we don't know what he did. But it's some things when it comes to my mama, my sister, any of the females in my family.
That's right. When it comes to female family members, tell them, Jay.
Yeah.
Preach it, Jay. Say it. Go ahead. Complete
your
your
things that's worth dying for. It's some things that's worth going to jail for. So I'm going to leave it at that because we don't know what happened.
We don't know what happened, but what I'm saying, Jay, is this. A dude that's playing in the NFL with the commissioner that is Roger Goodell that's damn near ready to suspend you for having bad breath. Suddenly you gonna put your hand on your sister's boyfriend. There's something that's wrong with that picture.
No, is everything right with that picture? No,
I'm talking about something wrong with the picture in terms of the dude, not Sean Smith.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I hear you exactly, Stephen A. I just want to say, by the way, First Take was epic this morning too. I loved it.
Thank you.
But I wanted to say that I think that, and I don't always mean to be the oddball, but I think that the people saying that they didn't want to go to the White House, I think if you don't agree with Trump, that you should go because then that way you get to speak your voice. And I also want to say, and I'll listen to you off the air, on the radio, Steve. After I say this, I want to hang up. But I also want to say I don't understand why it's only the black athlete or the black reporter or that's speaking out on these things.
Well, that part's not accurate, Jay. There's reporters of all ethnicities that have been speaking on this issue as it pertains to the athlete. Well, Chris Long spoke out yesterday. He was there with Malcolm Jenkins for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm sure there will be others. But I also would like to point this out. Once upon a time, I felt the exact same way that you did. I would have gone to the White House if invited, just because of the point that you made. But that's when it was a political thing. Now that we've watched how this man has conducted himself as an adult and as a man and as the leader of the free world, I find it unacceptable because of his personal behavior, absolutely having nothing to do with politics. I can talk to you and hope that your heightened level of sensitivity comes our way as it pertains to politics and policy. But when it comes to just knowing how to act like a damn adult, look, if you're 71 years old and you still a child, ain't no hope for you.
So do you think that Kevin Durant is declining to go, and people that would decline to go, do you think that it's the president, his demeanor and his character?
I think it's his personal behavior. I don't think it's policy.
Gotcha.
I don't think it's the fact. Listen. If John Kasich, if Marco Rubio, if Carla Fiorini, Jeb Bush, a host of other folks, I think if they got invited to the White House by those individuals. I think if they got invited to the White House by past administrations, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, I think they would go. I think I don't think their issue is with the politics. A matter of fact, Kevin Durant and LeBron James mentioned nothing about politics. They recognize there's hundreds of millions of people who are relatively conservative and think a bit differently than they do. They can respect that. What they can't respect is the insensitivity, it's the belligerence, it's the petulance. They can't respect the divisiveness, the fact that you could see neo-Nazis marching in the streets preaching against Jews and blacks and everybody who's non-white and non-Christian and being so divisive in a society that's supposed to be a gorgeous mosaic. I think these guys have a big problem with that, and that is what they're speaking about, and that is why I 1,000% support them on that.
Are you still there, Stephen A?
I'm right here, real quick. Go ahead.
Oh, and I just want to say real fast, I called in a week or so ago with some problems with Kaepernick. I want to reserve my comments because of where it is right now. I don't want to say I take back how I feel, but I'm loving where it's at.
I got you. So let's talk about that at a later date. We ain't going nowhere. You got plenty of time to call back about that, Jay. Ain't no problem. Appreciate the call, man. 866-729-ESPN. Your calls to close out the show in a minute with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
So good to me, I can't help it. Let me tell you where I'm. Excuse me, what's your name? Whoa! My voice is scratchy a little bit, but my sister Carmen's listening. My sister Carmen looking just as good as she wants to look. That's right, I say that. My sister looks good. She needs to stop smoking, though. I'm gonna just put it out there. I don't want the tobacco industry speaking up against me. My sister Carmen Jackson smokes too much, and I want her to stop. That's right, I said it. Carmen, if you're listening, baby girl, I got the ultimate thing that's going to make you stop. Because Carmen, my sister Carmen, can sing, you know. And she wants to be, she's a school teacher, but she wants to sing because she can sing. Carmen, if you don't stop smoking, your voice is going to sound like mine. I bet you that's incentive. 866-729-ESPN. Back to the phones we go before we get on out of here. JP in Brooklyn, real quick. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. Look, you brought up a couple of interesting topics listening to the show, and I have to chime in on. The first, one of them that touched me was the question you asked about the brother who got into a fight with his sister's
Yes, Sean
boyfriend.
Smith. Sean Smith for the Raiders. Yes.
Sean Smith. His presence alone should stop any type of additional harm he may have or may have not done to that sister. Now, him going that far, whatever he gets, he deserves. He had no business putting domestic violence within, family, men on men. It could be men on women.
All right, stop right there. We got your point. But what I'm saying to you is this. Nobody's advocating violence here. What I'm saying is that it wasn't that he was there. It seemed to be a situation where he was retaliating, meaning something had happened to his sister. We don't know what, but something had happened to his sister. That's what seems to be the case. Go ahead.
Life experience has taught me to always rebuke that behavior.
Okay, no problem. What's your second point? I got it. We got your point because we're running out of time, so go ahead and make your second point.
Okay. The NBA movement is a domino effect. Your point that you brought up about Doc Rivers, it makes a lot of sense. He's really in a hot seat. I see him getting fired and coming home to New York next season. Jeff Hornacek is also in a hot seat. If he doesn't produce this season, it looks like a movement going back home. You're going to see a lot of.
JP, I will say this to you because I got to get ready to go. I see Mark Jackson having a better chance at getting the New York Knicks job than I see Doc Rivers getting that chance. I can see Doc Rivers going back to someplace like Orlando or someplace else before coming to New York, but that's just me. Let's go to Ron in New Jersey real quick. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Ron.
Hey, nice speaking with you. Real honor.
Thank you.
In regard to Michael Bennett, he's trying to portray a positive message, yet when he sits during the national anthem, whatever message he has just goes out the window. Totally out the window. People do not respect anybody that sits during the national anthem. My suggestion to him is that if he has a positive message that he wants to send to the people of America, how about stand during the national anthem, wrap an American flag around yourself, and hold up the peace sign with your fingers? There are people with a positive message.
I got you, Ron, but my retort to that would be, whereas there's millions of people who would speak against him on that, there are millions of people who would support him in the position that he has already taken, because that clearly has been the case, A. And B, and more importantly, Ron, I would say to you, who are you or anybody else to tell him how to protest?
I agree with that, but you could see it didn't work for Colin Kaepernick.
Well, but it's not affecting him. It's not affecting him. He's got a job. He just signed a $30+ million contract.
He's fine. Just one other thing, real quickly, about the ball players not going to the White House. If you would have asked me a few months ago, win a championship, you go to the White House, I would say, how can you not go to the White House, meet the president, get a little bit tour of the place, say a couple things, but now what's going on now, completely different.
I got you.
I kept on going to say this. How can you go to the White House?
There you go. I appreciate that call, Ron. You seem to be very enlightened. Thanks a lot. Let's go to Maurice in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Maurice, go ahead. Maurice, go ahead. Bye, Maurice. Markel, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, go.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A.? Hey, I just wanted to talk to you real quick. I mean, I didn't like how the media is portraying Ezekiel Elliott still. You guys are sitting there on television making him seem like he's guilty based on the evidence has been
Stop right
displayed.
Stop right there. We're not doing anything. The NFL has done it with the report that they put out detailing what transpired on July 17th, July 19th, and July 21st of 2016. That's the evidence that everybody is leaning on. That's the problem Ezekiel Elliott has, not pundits. Go ahead.
Right, we got that part. But what the NFL put out is not necessarily what was exactly happening. I feel like the media is not doing their due diligence.
Stop right there. Ezekiel Elliott is not disputing those things. He's saying there's more to it than that, and they suspended him for 6 games. So now what?
I know they suspended him for 6 games, but I'm asking, why isn't the media trying to paint a better picture than what they are? They're basically subsiding.
What are we supposed to do, Markel? What are we supposed to do?
What do you mean? Because I don't believe you guys are telling the other side of the story, the whole story, the one that the police actually got, the witness statements. Everybody who actually was on the affidavit.
We've read everything. We've read about her. We've read about her trying to extort money from him. We read about how she said there was a sex tape that she would put out. We told about how she said that, you know what, I'm going to ruin your career and your life. All of that's been told. But in the end, what they're saying is it's more probable than not that physical violence was exacted against her. How do you get around that? And they suspended him 6 games because of it, knowing the evidence. Think about that over the weekend. We'll talk Monday. It's Stephen A. signing off. Peace and love, y'all. Talk to you.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show.